Hi, my name is Clutch and I post videos here on YouTube primarily about religion and atheism. Today I'm going to explain to you why atheism is the only rational position for someone like me to take. Now, if you're watching this video, at some point you're in a similar state to this unborn fetus. You had no prior knowledge of the world or its functions, only a few innate tendencies such as the capacity to learn language. As we grow older, our capacity for knowledge also grows, but as children we do not have the ability to think independently. We are raised to accept what we are told, and for good reasons. If our parents told us not to run onto a busy highway, it is in our best interests to listen. To question their judgment could be fatal. It is at this time that many of us are introduced to the concept of God. Like everyone else, we trust our parents' judgments and accept what we are told. After all, they are much more informed than us, and if they teach it to us as an accepted fact, with this reinforced by everyone in the surrounding community, we will take it to be accepted fact also. This is a deceptive and dubious scenario. When we reach a certain age of intellectual development, we learn that we don't have to accept everything that our parents told us as truth. We can begin to distinguish what they told us as truth, as common sense, and as their own opinion. Most of us realize that God was one of these opinions, and realize that we should justify the belief to ourselves rather than just accepting it because we were told it was true. Now, most people I've met understand basic logic. If you were to ask me, why do you post YouTube videos, and I were to respond with, why not, most people would recognize that as a fallacy. I'm violating the burden of proof, and most of us recognize that lack of reason not to do something is not a reason to do it. The null hypothesis would be to not commit an act unless given reason to do so. We would not have time to commit all the acts we lack reason not to do. The same is with God. We begin our quest by judging the null hypothesis and seeing if our current knowledge gives us reason to contradict that. Most people fail at the first hurdle. Because we are told that God is accepted fact, we take the null hypothesis to be that God exists. But this is wrong. Remember, as a fetus, we had no knowledge of God. It had to be taught to us. If it wasn't, we would not believe it. The null hypothesis is no God, or if you want to convolute it agnostically, non-God. But most atheists take this position. Non-God is no God. Many people confuse agnosticism and atheism as being different positions. They just refer to knowledge and belief. Most atheists realize that to say with absolute certainty that there is no God is just as foolish as saying with absolute certainty that there is a God. Atheism, lacking or without belief in a God. Non-God, no belief in God. The two are synonymous. Now we understand that atheism is the null hypothesis, let's move into the area of debate. What are we aiming to achieve? In this dialogue, I'm not trying to convince you that there is no God. My position is simply that there is not enough reason to leave the null hypothesis of atheism. Your position is that there is. In logical pragmatics, we call this asymmetrical persuasion dialogue. In asymmetrical persuasion dialogue, the main burden of proof is on the person making the claim against the null hypothesis. This is the theist. I, the atheist, only have the burden of giving reasons for or asking questions which reflect my prolonged skepticism, which you, the theist, then have to combat. My goal is not to convince you of the null hypothesis. That is described as a term known in law as the prima facie, i.e. accepted as truth or true until proven otherwise. If we cannot come to an agreement, then the null hypothesis is always deferred to. This would be atheism. So far, I'm yet to be convinced that there is any good reason to contradict the null hypothesis. And being on YouTube almost a year, this not being close to the start of my journey, it's not as if I haven't looked. But I hear the objections. It's about faith, it's about faith. The trouble is, what would I base that faith on? Would it be Zeus, Allah, Yahweh, Mithras, Horus, Jesus, Baal, Thor, Bishan Mountain? In my realm of experience and knowledge, there is no reason to believe in any of them. In fact, there may even be reasons to tell me that they are man-made. Now, they could all be very much real, but I could not know that. Any faith I might possess would be a baseless assumption. Baseless assumptions are irrational. I don't particularly fancy my chances of correctly guessing the right God out of the millions that have permeated human existence. And that's as if even one of them is real. Atheism may not be the correct position, but it is the only rational one, for a person like me at least. My goal is not to be right, because we will never know the answer to that either way. My goal is to come to the most rational conclusion possible. And yours should be too.